In this segment, we talk a little bit about how Lightroom's spot removal tool can be used. And here I have a relatively nice photo, except this branch seems to be in the way. Now, normally people would just take this tool and kind of just try to paint over the branch. And you come down, 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 and you say, all right, get rid of it. And unfortunately, it ends up grabbing some area that you don't want, and it's not quite right. Let me just zoom in here, hit the space bar and tap, and you see that this area is being copied down with this area. You see the little arrow. I could move this somewhere else and say, try to find another space to move it to. But it doesn't matter where I move it to. I'm never going to find an ideal location. The idea is to not try to copy it all in one step. Let me delete that. And let me start by saying, okay, let me just take this portion of it and let's just delete maybe down to about here. And I'm thinking that if I just do this piece, I'll be able to find another piece somewhere within her pants or whatever those things are to copy them from. And look, it picked this spot right here, which isn't bad. It picked a little bit off the bottom here. I'm going to move this up a little higher so it doesn't pick up that little edge from the water. And we're good. And what you can see is this area copied onto that area. And if I move my mouse, I'm using the down at the bottom here, auto. So if I move my mouse off the screen, that little sort of copy spot disappears. And if I bring it back, then the tool overlay shows. So it's just, off and on as I move my mouse in and out. So now I can do this other little area. Now if I try to paint here, I can't. I'm just going to drag it and move it. So I actually have to start a little bit away from it, and then I'll just paint up into that area, and then I'll paint down. And if you go right close to the edge and try to do that, it never works out very nicely, because you always end up, even if I move it, you end up with a bit of a smear. And it never quite works out very well. So when you have a line that crosses over the edge, let me delete that one. When you have this twig crossing over a dark area, in fact, take that area and copy it all the way up, and then copy it down. And now I've straddled this area on the lower thigh. If I let go, it's going to find another spot. And it finds a spot that's not bad, but it's picking up a little bit of the shoreline. So I'm going to move it down a little bit more. Down, 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 down. And right around there seems to be about right. Now, I could fidget with it and move it up and down with my mouse and try to get it right, but I'll let go instead. And I'll move my mouse away. And actually, it landed pretty good. But let me just show you what happens when I hit my down arrow key. And when I move my down arrow key, you see how one piece is moving, and now they're a little bit offset. And now I'll hit the up arrow key. And right about there, it looks like it lines up pretty good. So now I've kind of removed this whole area. And then I may just start again down here, and I'll just grab that up there, and I'll go down to about here somewhere. And oh, it went and grabbed it over here. Again, let me just take it away. That's not too bad. I mean, I can move it to somewhere else, but I mean, it picked a spot that isn't too bad. And do I want to do any more? Maybe just do along here and then down here. And it picked another spot. I'm just hit the arrow key. And it picked another spot, and it grabbed a little bit of this branch and brought it over here. And I'll just move it up a little bit. Yeah, somewhere around there. So that's not too bad. So I'll move my mouse away, and that looks like it's pretty much disappeared. So you can see how you can move something from one spot to another, and if you don't like the spot it picked, you can move it yourself. There's also the backslash key on your keyboard, the one, sorry, the front slash key, the one that's on the right-hand side next to the period. And if I hit space, that key, it just picked another spot. It just jumped. Do it again. It picked another spot, and do it again, and it picked the original spot. So it moves around 3 times before it lands. So it gives you sort of 3 choices, and that's very helpful if you're zoomed in very close and you can't see where this is. So sometimes I have to, grab it and move it myself to where I would like and do something along those lines. The other thing I'll point out is you can, let's see, this one would be very hard to do because it's so close to the edge of the leg, so it would actually be a little tricky to do that one. I can make I'm using this square bracket key and the left square bracket key. And let me see if I can kind of just do this here. Oh, sorry, I just hit something. I'm using a tablet, so my little mouse key went to a funny place. So it's like I hit the right mouse button. So I'll just click on that. I'll delete it. And come on, let me just try this again. And I'm going to try to get really close. And pick another spot. And you see it picked that. I'll just move it over here. So it's not really doing a good job. Now, I have a lot of feathering going on. So that means the edges of this outline are very little copying, and the middle is 100% copied, and on the very edge again it's 0 again. So it's feathered. So if I change the feathering to I did the opposite. I brought up 100% feathering at the moment, so now I see more of it. And if I go the other way, I have no feathering. So that should show me less. All right, so you saw that I could move this piece, but I can also move this one. So I'll click on this one. Okay, so now this is the source and this is the target. So this is being copied there. So I've clicked on the target. I'll move my mouse away and I'll hit my arrow key. And see, I'm kind of moving it a little bit. And I'm trying to move it a little bit more right to the edge. That's not too bad, but it's getting this funny effect because of the fact that it's still trying to copy this to that, and it's merging them. It's in heal mode. So let me try clone mode. And clone mode is an exact copy from here to there, and it's what's happening is the darkness of one area is being copied to the other. So I can reduce the opacity and bring it down a little bit. I'm just going to bring down the opacity. So if I bring it down to 0, something is being copied to the other spot, but it's opacity of 0, so it's copying virtually nothing. As I bring up the opacity, I can see something getting darker and darker. Now it's at some point in time it gets 100% too dark and it's black. So I'm going to bring it down a little bit. And I'm just trying to see if I can do something like that, maybe do some feather. And my question, I guess, is this less noticeable than if I, in fact, had nothing? So it's at 71 now. I'll just bring it all the way down to 0. And that's what it looks like now. And then I'll do Control-Z. It's back to 71. So, maybe it's just a little less noticeable, but I don't think I could really eliminate it very nicely. This is something that I'm at the limits of what I can do in Lightroom, and I probably would have to go to Photoshop and do some copy and pasting and so on, do some actual cloning. But that pretty much sums up all the different things that I've done here. We've talked a little bit about cloning versus healing. We've talked about making the size bigger and smaller, and I usually use the square bracket keys for those as opposed to going over here. We talked a little bit about feathering, and then the opacity is how much you're copying from one place to another.